Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the Arvada City Council meeting for August 20th, 2018. And call upon Councilmember Nancy Ford. Actually, we're going to start with the Housing Authority, aren't we? Sorry. Roll call. Kristen.
Chairman Mark Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair John MARRIOTT.
Here.
Commissioner Bob FIFER.
Here.
Commissioner Nancy Ford.
Here.
Commissioner David Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Mark McGough.
Here.
Commissioner Dot Miller.
Here.
So for the record, this is the regular meeting of the Arvada Housing Authority for August 20th. We have the minutes. Are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as presented. Any public comment to the Housing Authority at this time? Seeing none, we'll close that. And then reports of the Secretary. Ed Talbot.
Evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners of the Authority. Just have a few items to bring to you. This is actually our annual meeting. It's required by obviously state statute and our ordinance to have an annual meeting. And just have a couple items for you tonight. So the first thing on the agenda for you is that you probably recall that annually we receive a review by the U.S. Department of Housing Urban Development of our operation of the Section 8 Housing Assistance Payments Program. It's called CMAP, and basically they rate the authority on 13 different factors that apply to us relative to how we operate it. I won't go into a lot of detail unless you have some questions about that process, but we did have our review, and we did get notification from HUD about our score, and I'm pleased to report that we did score 135 out of 135, which gave us a 100% rating, which again rates the authority as a high-performing agency.
Good job.
And that goes to a great staff I am blessed with, basically, that runs this program. And just for context, looking back to 2000, this basically shows our scoring over the time, and I believe over 18 out of the 19 years we have been rated, we were rated as a high-performing agency. So we've managed to maintain a high level of performance I think the community can be proud of in how we operate this particular program. So again, folks to be congratulated for this is Carrie Espinosa, my supervisor, Section 8, Dina Cody, Housing Specialist, Donnie Yang, Housing Specialist, and Lisa Snyder, who is our new front counter person. They've been doing a great job with this in some trying circumstances right now, actually. Unless there are any questions, we could move on.
No, but if you'll please pass on our appreciation to your entire staff.
I'd be happy to do that.
Very good.
Thank you. So the next item.
Yeah, Mr. McGough had a question.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Perhaps my questions can wait till let me go through the presentation. They may be answered.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So the next item we do have on the agenda, it's a report for the Arvada Community Food Bank Bridges to Opportunity Program. This is our self-sufficiency case management program. We've been operating with the, it's now, what's it called, community table, right? I got the neighborhood table,
right.
Community table? With, for Bridges to Opportunity. I'd like to bring a report to you just periodically on the progress that's being made. As you may recall, we have 25 vouchers that we have dedicated to that effort in our collaboration with them. And we've moved to the point now we actually had 20 enrolled of the 25 vouchers enrolled in the program. 5 have vouchers. They completed their interim steps, and they're out looking for units as we speak. So assuming those 5 are successful in that search, we'll be at full utilization for those. And there's a brief report, and I always give that to you at this time. And one of the things they do provide, and I think is good to see, is they'll provide a capsule description of one of the clients that benefited from the program and how that program was an important component of a change in their life. And it is part of it. And I think it's an important part of putting a face on the program. And again, unless you have any questions.
Mr. McGough.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Talbot, I do have just a few questions, some just because we only meet periodically. I may just need to be brought up to date. I'm wondering on the vouchers, when somebody receives a voucher through the Arvada Housing Authority, and then they utilize the voucher in another jurisdiction, the money does follow them to the other jurisdiction, is that right?
Correct. It's
And,
called,
and it works the other way around too, as people receive vouchers in other communities and find a place to reside in Arvada, the dollars follow.
you're correct. It's
So-
called portability.
Okay,
So that
so-
we can have, we'll have, say, if you had a voucher through the Housing Authority and you found a unit in another jurisdiction's area, you could port with our voucher to that jurisdiction. We're still responsible because we're under contract with HUD for the funding for that particular voucher for you in that other jurisdiction. So we'll pay that funding to that participating agency on your behalf, and they'll administer the voucher for you in that jurisdiction. But we still have contractual responsibility for the funding for that voucher for you and wherever you might be.
And then the determining the suitability and the continued maintenance of the voucher residents, if that's in another facility, is there another housing authority that does that, those inspections or manages that, has a contract for those
Right.
inspections? Okay.
Correct. If they
And
do
then they,
port,
then they report back to Arvada because this is where the money originated, or do they not report that back?
not in terms of the details of their, management of the voucher. They'll bill us with an invoice, so we'll make the appropriate payments on their behalf. We keep a little bit back for our costs for the admin, but basically most of the funds that we get for that particular voucher would go to the authority. But we don't have responsibility at that point for, say, housing quality standards inspections, for example.
Okay. And I think I just have one other question. It does indicate that thankfully our waiting list was updated, purged and updated, and we've got that down to a somewhat more manageable number than it was before the purging took place. But it does say over the past year, 65 households were issued vouchers, and of those households, 20 were housed through the program. Does that mean that there were 65 new vouchers that were issued during this year, and the others were continuing from previous years?
Yeah, think of the 65 as we pull people off the waiting list. We're not talking about those that, were purged. Obviously,
Right.
There's a story there. But for the ones that we pull off the waiting list and we issue the voucher to them, they'll go out and try to find a unit that meets the program qualifications if they're looking for a new unit. If they can't find one within 90 days, there's the potential to extend them. But if they don't find one in 90 days, or if it is extended, they'll surrender their voucher and they won't have that voucher any longer.
Okay, so there were 65 issued and 25 were successful in finding a
Correct.
place with that voucher.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Ford?
Ed, I just want to clarify this graph that says Arvada Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Where you have the individual household characteristics, does that mean that of all the elderly households assisted, 39% were assisted of all the ones that you have as potential
I
clients?
believe I understand. And just as a point of clarification for the audience, we're actually looking at the annual report for the Housing Authority with some good questions from the commissioners right now, which is the
Council
action.
or the commissioners have jumped ahead of your
Yeah.
presentation. That's okay.
I just thought I'd clarify for those so
Yeah.
they know where we're at. So when you're looking at that number, 39% of the leased up households that were out there from the program, in the simplest sense, 39% of those would be characterized as elderly households of the total number that were enrolled in the program.
So these overlap then, right? Because
Yes.
they don't add up to
Absolutely. Think of
100.
these as singular, let's
Right.
move ahead so we can show this. Think of these as singular numbers. These don't aggregate to 100%, for example. So obviously a lot of the elderly are under female head of household, for example.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so think of them as singular, not as aggregated.
And I just want to ask you one question, because I didn't get a chance to ask you this last week. But you had reports that you had printed, and I would love to get one of those reports.
Oh, I'd be happy to get that too.
Okay, thanks.
And again, for clarification, there was a report, the council members, basically, excuse me, that had to do with the vacant land study and the results of that done through Hometown, Colorado. And I believe I'd offered up that if there would be any interest in those, be happy to get you the written report. So I'll be happy to do that.
Thanks.
You bet.
Okay. Okay, we're stopping our questions and ready for you to get the rest of your presentation.
Okay, that's fine. Questions are good. I got no problem with that. So anyway, I'm not going to go through detail on the annual report, just as the background is, again, we do have to file an annual report with the mayor. In this case, it's obviously our chairman, Mark Williams, sitting in his capacity as mayor. But it is a requirement of what the Housing Authority has to do in its relationship with the city of Arvada. So every year we do this annual report. I do try to keep it consistent. You'll notice it looks very much the same because I think there is value in consistency and be able to track and see data over time. And I really try to maintain that. So you'll see these, if you go back, you'll see a lot of the similar charts or numbers that you're seeing within the report. I'm not going to go through all the components of the report, just to highlight a couple of them, and I think Commissioner McGough did touch on one I thought I'd just mention. But we did do a purge on our waiting list, and in the chart in the report you'll see it's the size of the waiting list. I thought you may have some question about that. We were up to 3,981 households on the waiting list. We're down to a little over 300. That's an enormous drop. I have not seen that here running this program. Primarily, that is because we do purge the waiting list. We tell the clients when they sign up, we need to have updated information on where you're located, what your address is, how can we contact you, because we do that when we contact them. A lot of the reason for the purge and the numbers we lost, we didn't hear back from a lot of people in the waiting list. One thing to keep in mind, this is not just Arvada households. By law, we accept anybody who wants to apply for the program across interjurisdictional lines. New York, Omaha, Aurora, wherever. So a lot of the people we lose are from outside the city. I don't have a tracking number for that, but a primary reason was the purge, that I've never seen quite that drop. It's also reflective that folks out there are making choices and basically may be faced with some tough choices of where they're moving and what they're doing with their housing or living condition. And they won't just be responsive, or they may have just moved out of the area as they try to find a place that would be adequate for them for where they may stay. But that is a large number. We have not quite seen that. So we are down to a little over 300. We lost a lot of people off the waiting list. So the only other one I wanted to show you in terms of just giving you some numbers is a reflection of the assistance that we provide to households in three basic numbers. Contract rent is, think of that as the contract rent for the units for the clients enrolled in the program. It's made up of two places. It's the tenant contribution for what they pay toward their rent, and then there's the Housing Authority contribution, because with Section 8, it provides a subsidy to qualified very low-income households based on their income. So that's the breakout right now, what we're seeing in terms of the share of where the money comes from to pay for that contract rent. And with that, I just was going to go on to something I haven't done before, but because of the importance of the issue, and in fact it's actually increased in importance in the community, is some of the initiatives we've been involved in relative to homeless activities. You haven't seen this from me before in an annual report or a presentation, but just very briefly to touch on some of the work we've been involved in, especially my staff has been involved in with this. The one was the Mean Street Ministry Emergency Shelter closure down in Lakewood. 15 of the families, most of them with kids, that were at the emergency shelter had to leave. We basically felt it would be appropriate to step in to try to help those households because we weren't sure where they were going to be going. And we worked with 15 of those displaced households were processed for vouchers, and we did lease up approximately 11 of those of the initial clientele there to help out in that situation. Excuse me. As you know, the Jeffco Action Center, its shelter component, suspended the 22-bed homeless shelter. We did work with the shelter folks and with Jefferson County Human Services to try to work with those folks that were in the shelter because they had to leave. And we did help 5 of the displaced households and process them for vouchers as well to help them again, hopefully find to find a place that they could afford and be better living condition for them because it was no fault of theirs, obviously, that the shelter was closing. We worked with the the Metropolitan Denver Homeless Initiative. This was the point-in-time home survey in January. We did provide a modest level of financial support to that effort, and I'm proud of my staff for volunteering to help with that effort as well, to try to get better and more adequate numbers to reflect what the situation is relative to homeless in Jefferson County and in the metro area. We did look to apply for what's called VASH vouchers. This is for veterans, homeless veterans. We prepared, and we're going to, and did submit, didn't submit. We were looking to submit a funding application to that program for homeless vets. One component is we had to have support from the Veterans Administration to make that application go forward. The Veterans Administration office covering this area felt there was not a need for further VASH vouchers. We disagree, but we don't control. So we didn't proceed with that because without that support from the Veterans Administration, we couldn't go anywhere. Others we do is the family unification vouchers for homeless youth aged 18 to 24. We were looking to partner with, again, Jefferson County Human Services to try to see if we could obtain vouchers through this particular program. We were working toward this, but unfortunately at this point, Jefferson County Human Services is, I don't want to say overwhelmed, they're not overwhelmed. They are really burdened with a lot. They were just not in a position to partner with us because there would be a lot of work starting this up as a new program. We were facing a deadline. It was the end of I'm sorry, I can't remember the deadline, but it passed. And we weren't able to put an application together for that because they were just not in a position to be able to go forward. But we were looking to try because we thought it would be a good one to access. We are still continuing work with Colorado Homeless Families, the traditional housing program. We do continue with that commitment of 25 vouchers through that program, and you folks are probably familiar. Connie Zimmerman may be a name that you remember. She's retired, but that program is still strong and up and running and providing a good service in the community. And again, we have that partnership with the food bank, now Community Table, for the 25 vouchers to work through that self-sufficiency program with them. And I would say a significant portion of those folks were either in danger of homelessness, we're in a homeless situation where we're really facing imminent homelessness with that. So we've been working where we could, making our efforts where we could to do at least our part to the extent we could in trying to take a look or take a shot at this problem, because it is an expanding problem, as you know. And with that, that's all I have in terms of report. You just need to take an action on the annual report, and that's it.
I would entertain a motion on the annual report. Mr. Pfeiffer.
I move to approve the Arvada Housing Authority annual report.
Motions for approval. All votes are cast. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Before Mr. Talbot steps down, we had the fortune of last week at the Urban Renewal Board meeting to have a presentation from Mr. Talbot and her name again?
Susan Powers.
Susan Powers, who is a previous executive director of the Denver Urban Renewal Authority and now is very involved in workforce housing issues. I thought it was an excellent workshop for the Urban Renewal Authority, and I would like City Council to consider having that here. It's not looking at shelters. It's looking at really attainable workforce housing issues, which is an issue that our citizens have been pretty loud and clear. So folks in support of having that. So Mr. Devin, if you'll get in contact with Ms. Fair. Ed did a terrific job speaking from the city perspective, and I think Susan did an excellent job looking at the private sector side of it and what can be done in terms of addressing the issue. So
it was an opportunity I really, cherished might be too strong a word, but it was really good to be before the board talking about the issue.
Yeah, and the Urban Renewal Authority has heard from folks coming before it as well that this is something, and so the Urban Renewal Authority is going to be looking at properties within the district that might be suitable, and then we can look citywide as well through this. So very good. Thank you.
Thanks again.
You bet. Okay, now we will convene as the Arvada City Council and have a moment of reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Nancy Ford.
Would you join me in a moment of reflection? And now, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's always kind of funny when we have both a housing authority and city council meeting, because I'm going to call upon Kristen Rush to take roll. We're still all here, but we have to take roll again in our different hats.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem MARRIOTT.
Here.
Councilmember FIFER.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember McGough.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Okay, we're still all present and accounted for. Next we have the approval of the minutes for August 6th. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, those minutes will stand approved as presented. Next, we have recognition. I'll call upon Nancy Ford.
Well, I have the wonderful pleasure of recognizing a long-term instructor of the Arvada Center, Christina Noel-Adcock, and if you'll come down to the podium. Christina Noel-Adcock you can put it down. Has been sharing her love of dance as a teacher, choreographer, and dance administrator at the Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities for over 31 years. She is also the artistic director of the Arvada Center Dance Theater. Christina believes wholeheartedly in training healthy dancers. She works hard to develop a dance program that trains students, young and old, to be both accomplished dancers and healthy human beings. Many of Christina's former students have gone on to dance professionally and have been awarded scholarships to strong dance schools around the country. While Christina is an accomplished choreographer and teacher, perhaps her greatest gift is inspiring others to fully embrace their love of dance. She works tirelessly, devoting many hours mentoring teachers and students. City Council wishes to acknowledge Christina Noel-Adcock's long-standing commitment to the dance community. And I'd like to say that as one of Christina's students, I find Christina one of the best teachers I've had in the 30 years that I've danced. So Christina, we are now going to give you a certificate of recognition, and it's presented to you and signed this day, the 20th of August, 2018, signed by all the City Council members and our mayor, in recognition of your longtime service to the Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities and the Arvada community.
Go get a hug. Go get a hug.
Yeah, get all that. There's a lot of photo bombers in the room. I don't know.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful recognition, and I really appreciate it. 31 years ago, my father said, you should take the job at the Arvada Center. My partner at Colorado Ballet was teaching 1 day a week, and he said, it's a lovely place to work. You should try it. I'm like, okay. And my dad said, you should take it, even though it's 20 miles from home. I'm like, okay. And then somebody left, and then I said yes, and somebody else left, and I said yes, and I just never learned to say no. And 31 years on, I've learned so much at the Arvada Center, and the people I work with and the families and the children I work with are absolutely amazing and the best ever, and I hope I don't have to retire anytime soon. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Christina. Next, we have a proclamation for Colorado Cities and Towns Week, which will be presented by Councilmember David Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now in its 6th year, Colorado Cities, and Towns Week is part of an ongoing effort sponsored by the Colorado Municipal League to raise awareness about the services that cities and towns perform to educate the public on how municipal government works. Municipal government is the level of government closest to most citizens, and the one with the most direct daily impacts upon its residents. Through Colorado Cities and Towns Week, CML hopes to heighten the public's awareness of municipal government's role in enhancing their quality of life. So I'd like to read a proclamation in honor of this. Whereas municipal government is the government closest to most citizens and with the most direct daily impact upon its residents, and whereas municipal government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to an understanding of its many responsibilities, and whereas municipal government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along their understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Colorado Cities and Towns Week is a very important time to recognize the important role played by municipal government in our lives. And whereas the Colorado Cities and Towns Week offers an important opportunity to convey to all of the citizens of Colorado that they can shape and influence government through their civic involvement. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and city council of the city of Arvada, Colorado hereby recognize the week of September 10th through the 16th, 2018 as Colorado Cities and Towns Week, and encourage all to actively participate. Signed by the mayor and all members of council. This is a great thing that we hope all citizens of Arvada will take part in. And right now we've got a great initiative called Speak Up Arvada, which is a way for us to get feedback on what citizens want Arvada to be in the future. So I don't have the website memorized, but go to the website, City of Arvada. I'm sure there's places there where you can click on it and find more information about Speak Up Arvada.
Very good, and we'll get that presented down to, I'm a little disappointed Sam Mammoth's not here to personally accept this, or Bomber isn't here. So somebody talk to Bomber's wife, will you? Okay, now we'll move to public comment, and I've got several people signed up. We'll start with Eddie Lyons. Mr. Lyons.
Thank you. Good evening, and I hope you had a nice day. I did. A couple days ago, I received in this mail a public opinion survey. I read through it, and I'm very pro-Arvadan, so I support each item number 100%. For those that you haven't read, I suggest that you read it. 12 years ago, City Council put together a committee called Capital Item Project Survey Committee, and I was fortunate to be on that committee. And what we did was sit down and brainstorm some of the things that we needed in the city. And I sat there and I'm thinking, wait a minute, what do I know that needs to be improved in the city? And then I got to thinking about Ralston Road. And I thought about it because I cut lawns down there for the Pizza Hut and the Colorado Cattlemen's Association for years and years, and the traffic down there at that time, 12 years ago, was humongous. You couldn't dare to turn your back on the traffic because it was very dangerous. And I came up with the idea, why not? Was it possible to widen Ralston Road? Can we do that? And I've hounded and hounded all the people on the committee, and we finally brought it to City Council on the agenda. And item number 1 that was presented to City Council was widen Ralston Road because of its punitive and unsafe operation. Always had the fear that we were going to be sued for punitive damages because of the unsafety of the narrowness of the road. So I come tonight to inform all you folks that we need to go after this thing very diligently. We need to see if we can get this thing done. Hopefully we will get it done now. And on my bucket list, I hope to see Ralston Road get widened before I pass away. I think that's about all I have to say is it's important to me, and what really bothers me is God hasn't given us a very, very serious accident with this traffic problem on Rolston Road, but someday it could come. And I got this deadly fear the city's going to get sued for punitive damages if we don't get on it and get this thing done. I know that you folks have done some real hard work trying to get this thing together, and I hope we can get it going. Let's see, what else do I have to say?
I don't know, Mr. Lyons, you're out of time.
You know what? He warned me about this 2-year thing. When it was 2 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm through talking, and thank you for your support, and I'm tickled to death to see this survey came out, and I hope we get it done. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Next, I'll call upon Keegan Conley. Good evening.
Good evening. And good evening, members of Arvada City Council. My name is Keegan Conley, and I'm chair of Arvada Sustainability Advisory Committee, also known as ASAC. I'm here tonight to introduce the topic of greenhouse gases and community-wide emissions. So in 2012, Arvada City Council passed the Sustain Arvada Community Plan, which shows or demonstrates a strong commitment to sustainability. The plan addresses many aspects of sustainability, including vitality, energy, land use, transportation, waste, and water. And each of these sections has corresponding goals for us as a community to strive for. Because Sustain Arvada is the city's way of establishing our community's environmental stewardship, ASAC believes the document should include a section on air quality as well. As the current Sustain Arvada plan states, and I'm quoting, "The air we breathe is vital to maintaining good health in Arvada, as well as preserving our scenic mountain views and our local resources." However, since the plan is lacking goals specific to reducing greenhouse gases and maintaining or even bettering our air quality in Arvada, ASAC believes this project is incomplete. As a result, ASAC has spent the better part of a year using tools purchased by the City of Arvada to understand where emissions from our community are coming from. The City of Arvada provided 2 separate greenhouse gases inventories. One was from the calendar year 2017, and one was a previous assessment, what's known as a baseline inventory from the calendar year 2007. And ASAC has been using these tools to kind of investigate Arvada's ability to reduce emissions while taking into consideration economic growth and other factors such as the deployment of the G-line. ASAC intends to present a formal resolution or a formal recommendation for this body to adopt an air quality category within that plan and subsequent emission reduction goals. So I look forward to presenting that in September, and I want to thank you for your time tonight and for your service to the City of Arvada.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll call upon April Cater. Or Caton.
It's April Cater.
Okay.
You had it right.
I had it
Thank
right
you.
the first time.
Tegan, well done. My name's April Cater. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a concerned citizen of Arvada. I've lived here for a little over 5 years, and I've loved living in Arvada. But my concern is that we still don't have required recycling. I don't understand this. It's archaic to me. It's behind times. It's dangerous. I live in a small 40-unit townhouse complex called Twin Creek off of Sims Road, and when I first moved there 5 years ago, we didn't have mandatory recycling. So I thought the only way you can do this is by lobbying or get on the board to pass the law that in our complex we could have recycling. So I did that within a year, and we have mandatory recycling, and over 90% of our residents said, I recycle now because it's required. We also went single stream for garbage and recycling from the same company, and we cut down thousands of dollars on our HOA fees for the year. We also had over $40,000 of concrete damage from the giant trucks that would come in and out over 3 times a week for recycling and for garbage. And they come once a week now for garbage and once every other week for recycling. So when I drive around Arvada and I see that it's up to our individual neighbor or communities to pass a law that we have to recycle, it saddens me. It saddens me because Colorado we make millions of dollars a year on ecotourism, skiing, hiking, camping, fishing. People visit Arvada for our trail networks. They want to go fishing in the Arvada Reservoir. It's a great neighborhood, but we don't take care of it. And I don't understand that. I have to apologize to family and friends who visit from the West Coast or from New England where I grew up, and they don't understand why we don't recycle. And it shouldn't take the super rich Boulder, Aspen, and Telluride to be the only people in Colorado that care about our environment to do something so basic as to require recycling. And if you go through one company to do garbage and recycling, you're going to cut down on noise pollution, you're going to cut down on the amount of money that we put in for road repair, because every day of the week when you drive through our neighborhoods, there's a different company and a different truck. So you're looking, even in an eyesore, there's always garbage cans at the end of different driveways. Like, that is concerning. To me, we're putting millions of dollars, and I've got the form already, and I mailed it in. I don't want to go in debt. I'd rather tax us and pay for it now. I get it. We've got all these neighborhoods going up in Candelas and north of here. Arvada is a hot ticket. It's the fastest expanding area in the Denver metro area right now because it's a great place to live. But it's sad to tell new residents that we don't do the basics to take care of our town. We could set the standard for the whole Denver metro area by putting it through our taxes that we do recycle. And that is just a basic thing that we can do. My time's up, but I hope Arvada's time isn't up. Please pass this in November. You guys will be doing the right thing, because that's what it comes down to, simply doing the right thing.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next, Steve Nixon.
I was here supporting Keegan's comment.
Very good. Melissa Bauer. Very good. Well, that completes our public comment. Anybody else wish to address City Council? Yes.
Hi, my name is Rachel Smallwood at 6108 Route Court. Apologize, I didn't sign up. Things pop in my mind later. I'm like, oh yeah, I should say something. So I really appreciated Ed Talbot's annual report. That's what triggered my memory. So I just wanted to remind you all, I think you already know that our Veterans for Progressive Action is hosting a housing fair on September 29th from 10 to noon at the Apex Community Center, formerly known as the Senior Center. And I'd like to thank Councilor Nancy Ford for promoting it at her town hall, and to ask if any of the rest of you are having any events between now and then to please promote it. We can get you flyers. There's a there's a page on the city website letting people know information about it, so you can direct people to that as well. We have a Facebook event that would be great if you all could share on your individual Facebook pages. I don't know if you have individual websites or individual newsletters that you could spread the word on, but people who are struggling to live in Arvada really need to know that this opportunity is available for them to know what resources are already here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else? With that, I'll move on to the new business. First item is the consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is R18081, a resolution authorizing the issuance of a blanket purchase order in the amount of $600,000 to Hill Petroleum for the purchase of fuel and fuel delivery services. Second item is R18082, resolution authorizing a license agreement between Arvada and Unica Pacific Railroad Company for one underground fiber optic wireless crossing. Next item is a resolution authorizing an agreement between Arvada and Victim Outreach Incorporated for the provision of victim advocate and related services in an amount not to exceed approximately $196,000 in the first year. Next item is a resolution authorizing a construction contract between Arvada and T. Lowell Construction for the Ralston Trunk Sewer Regrade in an amount not to exceed $750,000. Fifth item is a resolution requesting the release and subordination of Jefferson County's reversionary interest as a limited areas of Lake Arbor Golf Course for the purpose of authorizing a Verizon wireless communication facility. Next item is a resolution authorizing the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $400,000 to Central Salt for the purchase of salt material for the 2018-19 snow season. Next item is a companion to that, a purchase order in the amount of $400,000 to the Independent Salt Company for the purchase of salt material for the 2018 and 19 snow season. And the next one, I think it's an El Nino year, is a resolution authorizing the issuance of a purchase order in the amount of $400,000 to Compass Minerals America for the purchase of salt material for the 2018-19 snow season. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Mr. Pfeiffer?
Well, can I say so moved?
You may. Motion is for approval of the consent agenda. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Seriously, I have heard that this could be a heavy winter, so we got to have lots of salt.
Well, this morning was a little chilly, so I was
It
thinking
was.
that
It was like fall was in the air.
Yeah, it was.
And we got to get rid of the smoke. Okay, next is Resolution 404, a resolution authorizing a First Amendment to intergovernmental agreement between Arvada and the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District regarding final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Leyden Creek from Indiana Street to 72nd Avenue, UDF CD number 14-08.08A, Arvada project number 17DR02. Mr. Devon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. What's before you tonight is actually a follow-up from an approval back in October of 2014 where you approved an intergovernmental agreement with the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District regarding the installation of a box culvert at that location of Leyden Creek by Alkire Street. And what is before you tonight in this First Amendment is that we are asking for an additional $50,000 to increase our commitment by $50,000, and Urban Drainage will do the same thing in order to develop construction plans that will allow for the widening of Alkire Street to its ultimate section from West 78th Avenue to the entrance to Youth Memorial Park, and complete bike lanes and a 10-foot multi-use concrete trail on the west side of Alkire Street intended for pedestrians and equestrians, a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk on the east side of Alkire Street, and installation of curb and gutter and other corresponding improvements within the project limits. Now, what I want to take you back to is, it was actually about a year ago this time when members of the equestrian community came before the City Council to talk about an incident that involved a horse that was unfortunately struck by a vehicle. The driver of the vehicle tried to avoid the horse, but the horse had gotten loose and was on Alkire Street, and unfortunately an accident occurred. We met with the equestrian community to discuss that incident and discuss other issues in that area, and agreed that we needed to try to find a way to widen Alkire Street and provide some greater width on the shoulders of Alkire Streets for equestrian users. We also met with, in fact, former Director of Public Works, Bob Manwaring, and I had a meeting with students, parents, faculty members at Van Arsdale Elementary School, and they also expressed concerns about sidewalks and pedestrian pathways for children going to the school, particularly walking south from approximately West 80th Avenue to the elementary school, and talking about the fact that there's a lot of traffic that goes to Ralston Valley High School in that area. So what we did was we found a way to add money to this box culvert project on Leyden Creek by widening, putting pedestrian lanes in, bike lanes, and pedestrian pathways on the east and west sides of Alkire, basically between West 78th Avenue and Van Arsdale Elementary School. Our staff, I think, took a drainage project and found a way to add money to it in order to improve pedestrian, pedestrian and equestrian use, or improve pedestrian and equestrian use for that segment of roadway. It doesn't get us quite up to West 80th that we'd like to get to at some point, but it does greatly improve the area right around the elementary school, and also this will help convey horses to the trails that are actually on the north side of Leyden Creek that kind of follow the creek up towards Indiana Street. So this was a good example of us taking another project and tweaking it in order to meet some community needs, and certainly we would appreciate and recommend the City Council's approval of this amendment to that IGA.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion. Mr. Marriott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that R 18-089, a resolution authorizing a First Amendment to intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Arvada and the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District regarding final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Leyden Creek from Indiana Street to 72nd Avenue, UDFCD number 14-08.08A, Arvada project number 17-DR-02 be approved.
Motions for approval. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have ordinances on first reading. Mr. Marriott.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I move that Council Bill 18-036, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the City of Arvada, Haskins Station, from City of Arvada PUDI, Planned Unit Development Industrial, to PUDR, Planned Unit Development Residential, 11.8 dwelling units per acre, and from PUDR, Planned Unit Development Residential, 3.0 dwelling units per acre, to PUDR, Planned Unit Development Residential, 4.8 dwelling units per acre, and amending the official zoning maps of the City of Arvada, Colorado, generally located at the northwest corner of Quail Street and Ridge Road. And also, I move that Council Bill 18-037, an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Arvada and the City and County of Denver, acting by and through its Board of Water Commissioners, be approved on first reading, both approved on first reading, or published in full, and public hearings set for September 10th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m.
Motions for approval on first reading. Yes.
Can I make one point of clarification?
Yes.
On the Haskins Station, that should be from PUDI to PUDR at 10.3 dwelling units per acre for the first piece.
Very good. With that correction, motions for approval of the on first reading. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have the Haskins Station Metropolitan District Service Plan. Mr. Daly.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. This is an informational item only. No action is necessary. Basically, this is just a notice indicating that the public hearing on the the proposed station, Haskins Station Metropolitan District Service Plan is scheduled for September 17, 2018. Again, no action is necessary. Say that again?
Okay.
So no action is necessary. We can just go to the next item.
Very good. Next, I'll open the public hearing on Council Bill 18034, an ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the City of Thornton for the purchase and sale of water storage and water rights and for the delivery of water. Mr. Devon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the state engineer that's responsible for administering the South Platte River has resulted in Arvada having difficulty during the months of April through June and September through October in making return flows to the South Platte River. This amendment expands the time frame for the delivery of the return flow of water by Thornton to the South Platte River. And if you want a really detailed explanation of what all that means, Jim Sullivan is here and will be able to provide it to you. But we are recommending approval of the ordinance, and as it will help us in meeting our complicated water rights requirements in association with water returning flow to the South Platte River.
As I look out at Jim Sullivan with the smile on his face, he's got an hour-long PowerPoint presentation, including cat pictures, to 66 slides. Very good. We'll see if we need that or not, Mr. Sullivan. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion, and unless any council member urges and wins by a 4-3 vote, a requirement that we view all 66 PowerPoint slides will pass. Mr. McGoff.
I don't wish to see the 66 slides.
That's good, because I was going to start a recall petition if you did.
Okay. So if we're ready for our questions and comments. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. If I've got this understanding correct, in the past, when this water was used for agricultural use, so much of it would flow back to the Platte. Now that we are piping it and using it residentially, we don't have that return flow to the Platte. So we have to make arrangements to return water to the Platte that would have historically gone back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm understanding it. Okay.
Very good. I see no other questions. Do we have a motion? Ms. Ford?
Okay. I move that CB 18-034, whoops, an ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Arvada and the City of Thornton for the purchase and sale of water storage and water rights, and for the delivery of water be approved on final reading, numbered 4652, and ordered published by title only.
Motions for approval? All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. I had a conversation with the Public Information Officer for Thornton today and indicated we were going to have this discussion. He thought this was going to be much easier than the discussions they're having with Weld County right now over water rights that Thornton is having with them. So with that passes 7-0, and we'll move on to our second public hearing. That's Council Bill 18035, an ordinance repealing and reenacting Article 3 special event permits of Chapter 6 alcoholic beverages of the Arvada City Code. I bet this is Mr. Daly's item. No?
Well, I'll start, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We're moving from water to liquor now.
Yes. And in Colorado, water's for drinking, liquor's for fighting.
There you go.
Oh, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite, yeah.
What? Oh, I did. I totally blew that. I apologize.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I figured I'd let you handle that. What is before you tonight, the ordinance that is before you tonight, would basically adjust our ordinance in association with special event application processes in order to keep all associated fees within the city as permitted by state law. The proposed repeal and reenactment of Article 3, Chapter 6 of our code codifies these changes and provides flexibility with respect to the content of special event permit application as determined by the city clerk in accordance with applicable state law. In the past, we've actually had a process where we assessed a fee, the state assessed a fee, and it took longer for special event applications to be processed. This ordinance and this cleanup, which the city attorney's office has worked very closely with the city clerk and our liquor licensing authority capacity, will clean that up and make it much more efficient to process these applications.
Very good. Any questions from or comments from members of the public? Not, I close the public comment portion, open up for city council question or action. Mr. Pfeiffer.
If there aren't any questions, I will go ahead and make the motion.
You may.
I move that Council Bill 18-035, an ordinance repealing and reenacting Article 3 special events permits of Chapter 6 alcoholic beverages of the Arvada City Code be approved on final reading number 4653 and ordered published by title only. I also like to speak to the motion. I just want to thank staff for always looking for continuous improvement to find and streamline our processes. This might seem very little in nature, but it actually impacts how we do events and engage our community, and this is just another good work by staff to look for continuous improvements.
Great. Yeah, I concur. And remember, liquor's for drinking, water's for fighting.
There you go.
That passes 7-0. Thank you. Public comment. Anybody else wish to address City Council tonight? Seeing none, we'll close that portion, open it up for City Council reports. Ms. Ford, you're first.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say that I had a very enjoyable meet and greet meeting last Wednesday night, the 15th of August, and it was a very good conversation with constituents, and a lot of good questions were asked, and I had the opportunity to bring up the resource fair on the housing, as Rachel had mentioned, and also our Speak Up Arvada campaign, and we talked about the transportation bond issues coming up for a vote. And so it was a very enjoyable time, and I'm hoping that more constituents will come out.
Great. Thanks for doing that. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Just two things I wanted to report back to staff. I was invited to the Sunrise Ridge Community Barbecue yesterday, and just wanted to convey their appreciation for the support that staff gave them on resolving a couple of issues in the park and making sure that they were able to have a great event. It was very well attended, and we always appreciate those invitations. Second is kind of a more interesting, not more interesting than parties. But I was also able to meet with, over the weekend, a family who lives in our district who has two children who have been diagnosed with a disease called Batten's disease. I'd never heard of it. But it's a rare disease, and I believe that they have five daughters. Their two oldest daughters have this disease, and they'll probably live to be in their early teens. But just wanted to bring awareness that there's a lot of really good causes that are going on in our city and throughout our country. But you know, when it comes to kids, it kind of gets me in my heart. And so I'm wearing this green band in honor of the Rare Sisters. And if you're interested in getting a band from me and learning more about Batten's disease, just let me know. Thank you.
Right. Were we going to try to get some signage up for them?
Yes, and that's a follow-up I have for Mr. Devon. I finally was able to connect with them, and so I'll talk with you after the meeting.
Very good. Mr. Pfeiffer?
That was very moving. It's very nice. Now you got me off where I didn't know what I was going to say. Oh, actually, Denver Regional Council of Governments is having their annual retreat this weekend. And that also reminded me, earlier we had public comment around air quality from the sustainability. I would ask that we kind of marry up to what Dr. Cog is doing around air quality, so as they own the containment or reporting of air quality and what efforts we're doing. And being a member, we probably don't want to duplicate any efforts, because a lot of the air quality issues we deal with is a regional issue, not necessarily a city issue, but how we can work together to minimize our impacts. And we also found out through the Denver Regional Council of Governments that a lot of our air quality issues coming from California, you know, another highly populated, where the wind just lands right here and sits in the valley of Denver. So
well, these fires are a perfect example of that.
Exactly, it's just sitting here. So, you know, I know we can do everything in the world to try to minimize and not pass on the air quality, but I just want to make sure that staff works with sustainability, that there's resources already there and efforts and funding with CMAQ and some others to address some of those concerns. So, but yeah, this weekend is the retreat up in Keystone, and I want to thank staff for putting together. Maria, is she the one who put it together? My annual poster. We were the first ones to turn in our poster, because all 56 communities have to do it. And I love when we're number one all the time, because I can rub it in all the other communities'
That's good.
faces. So thank you.
Are we still members of the RAC? And is the RAC still in existence? The regional air quality?
Yeah, the regional air quality. I think Dr. Cog is, right? But we're not, are we?
Yes, well, I don't know if we're a member, but I did want to let you know that they have reached out to all of the PIOs in the region, and they're doing a lot of proactive communication pieces. We've participated in a lot of conference calls with them, pushing out issues on, you know, air quality, what you can do to, you know, reduce your carbon footprint, et cetera. So we're participating in all of that.
Yeah, I mean, leveraging those resources from the RAC, that's a good suggestion. Even CDOT has air quality, and you see the ozone warnings on all the big message boards. So, you know, maybe there's a way we can share the message locally on our channels as well. So, good suggestion, Mayor.
Right. Couple of things. I had the good pleasure Friday night of tapping the firkin at Odyssey Beer Works, which is always great fun. It's for their Oktoberfest, and it's a brew that they brew up specifically for Oktoberfest. Odyssey Beer Works has been a great. They're located there off of 58th and over close to Sheridan in the industrial park there on the north side. They're good corporate citizens. They've been at a lot of our events over the years, and It's always fun to participate, even if I do have to listen to polka music. So that was great fun. And then went out afterwards, and I urge people to get out to Westwoods for dinner, particularly on Friday nights. They've got one of the bartenders who works on the side playing guitar, and he is just great. And you sit out there by the fire pit, listen to the music, plays a great variety of tunes from 5 to 9 p.m. on Friday nights, getting quite a following. And the raves that I'm getting about how great the clubhouse turned out, so pass it on to staff. They're doing a great job out there. Okay, Mr. Devon? Oh, wait. We have an important appointment to do before we move on. Does somebody have a motion? Mr. Marriott?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to appoint Councilmember Mark McGough to the Jefferson County Community Corrections Board for the period of September 2018 to September 2021.
Motions for appointment. Mr. McGough, you wish to speak?
Yes, I would like to speak to the motion. I'll be happy to accept the appointment. I think it's just important to note that the Jefferson County or Jefferson Community Corrections Board has been in existence for more than 35 years. It is its basis is an intergovernmental agreement with the jurisdictions of Jefferson County and the county government itself and the district attorney's office. And it's to take a look at offenders, criminal offenders within the community, those who are on the front end of the system after they've been convicted of a crime and are eligible for community corrections. The board makes recommendations to the judges concerning the appropriateness of candidates, individual candidates for placement within the community to the community corrections centers that are located in Lakewood. Also, the board reviews the cases of inmates who are coming back into the community after having served time in state prison facilities. And we recognize the value of having a transitional program for offenders as they come back into the community rather than being directly released from prison to our communities. And so the board meets once a month with public defender staff, district attorney staff, mental health staff, community representatives, all spectrums of the criminal justice system, including judges at the municipal and county and district level, and review these cases. It's a significantly important function that is carried out at the county level, and we have had representatives from our city council on it for the 35 years or more that the community corrections program has been in place in the county, and I'm happy to serve as the council's and the city's representative to the board. So thank you.
So all votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. McGough. I had the pleasure of serving on that board for 12 years myself and know that first of all, it's very time-consuming, and it's a lot of responsibility in terms of doing your homework, making sure you've really analyzed whether or not these individuals can be safe members within our community versus being in the prison system. So thank you for your work on that. You've chaired it. Are you continuing to chair?
No, now I serve as vice chair.
Okay.
So from time to time I do chair the meetings, but otherwise we leave that to County Judge Randall at this point.
Well, Mark Randall's a good guy too. So, and so again, thank you for that. Mr. Devon, now I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next Monday, we'll be doing something unusual. We will be opening up the meeting as the City Council, as convened as a regular City Council business meeting, and the purpose of that will be to consider a couple of business items, the most important of which is the resolution submitting a ballot question to the electors of the city regarding the issuance of bonds for the projects that were discussed earlier under public comment, and we'll receive a short presentation on that, and then I'll provide a brief summary, and the City Council will be asked to act on the resolution. And then after that is done, we'll present for you the first of, I believe we have scheduled 3 workshops on the 2019-2020 budget. This workshop will focus on our 10-year financial plans, and it will start the introduction of the city manager's recommended budget to the city council, which you will consider during workshops in September and early October, as well as a formal consideration of the budget in October. So this will give you the basically the sum total of the consideration that we've had as a staff through budget meetings and consideration of submittals in July.
Very good. Mr. Daly, anything? We stand adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay.